They fined me $450 for a flag holder they said was not regulation height. 2 weeks later, I found out the board president's husband had 3 of them, identical, in his yard. I printed the photos, time-stamped, 8:42 a.m., May 12, 2023. Welcome to my channel. I'm Greg Lawson, 44, civil engineer out of Denton, Texas, and I post real stories about neighborhood justice, cases where homeowners fight back the right way. If you're new here, hit subscribe. I promise you'll learn something useful before you pay another HOA fine. And tell me where you're watching from, because every state's got its own flavor of crazy when it comes to these boards. The first time I heard the term architectural violation, I laughed. My house was my late brother's. He was a firefighter, died in 2018, left it to me with a note that said, "Keep the flag up, no matter what." That aluminum pole with the scuffed bracket was sacred, but the HOA saw non-conforming attachment. The letter came folded twice, typed in Arial 10, unsigned. My stomach dropped like I'd opened a bill I couldn't pay. At the next board meeting, I showed the letter. The president, a woman named Carol Wicks, with a pearl brooch and a lawyer's smile, tilted her head and said, "Rules are rules, Mr. Lawson. Uniformity protects property values." "Even if the rules made up last week?" I asked. She smiled wider. "Then it's the newest protection." That was my introduction to Sunview Meadows HOA. Population 184 homes, annual dues $420, and a board that treated the CCRs like scripture. My house was at the edge of the subdivision, abutting a drainage easement, an ugly strip of land that no one wanted but me. It mattered later. For a few months, I paid their little fines just to stay off the radar. $25 for trash cans, visible from street, $50 for holiday decor exceeding 30 days. The wounds added up, small paper cuts that stung ever sighers. I saw my brother's old flag ripple in the wind. My neighbor, Maria Chen, a nurse who worked nights, caught me photographing the easement one morning. She asked if I was planning to sell. I told her no, just measuring. She raised an eyebrow. "Careful," she said. "Carol's got a tape measure in her purse." Maria became my sanity check, my mirror. She'd seen the board harass an elderly vet on Willow Bend over a wheelchair ramp. Said the man moved out after a year of hearings. She handed me a coffee in a dented thermos and told me, "They count on fatigue. Don't let them tire you out." Her words stuck. I started reading the bylaws at night. Dry stuff, covenants, easements, assessment authority. But in section 14.3, buried under maintenance obligations, I found a line. Easement parcels remain under municipal jurisdiction unless expressly conveyed. It hit me like a circuit closing. That drainage strip wasn't theirs. Knowledge nugget number 1. HOAs can only enforce rules on property within the recorded plat. Anything excluded or municipally owned lies outside their jurisdiction. I printed the plat map from the county clerk's site. Parcel 47C3, still owned by the city since 1998. The board had been citing me for unsightly vegetation on land they didn't even control. I didn't confront them yet. Strategy, not shouting, that's the engineer in me. I documented everything. Every citation, envelope, timestamp, photo. Built a binder with numbered tabs. When Maria saw it, she said, "You're building a lawsuit." I said, "No, I'm building a wall of facts." Still, it gnawed at me, how they wielded power like a toy badge. The president's tone, the smirks. I missed my brother's certainty, that firefighter calm. Once he told me, people respect rules until they see them misused. One Friday afternoon, a notice appeared on my door. Compliance hearing, 10 days. I laughed out loud. 10 days to appear before my neighbors like a criminal over a piece of metal. But this time, I didn't shred the letter. I put it in the binder, slot number 12. At the meeting, Carol read from a clipboard, "Failure to remove unapproved fixtures after prior warning." I slid a photo across the table, her husband's identical flag holder printed at 8 by 10. She blinked, but didn't flinch. "Selective enforcement," I said quietly. She tapped her pen. "You're free to appeal." "I just did," I said. That night, I walked the easement in the dark, counting steps, measuring boundaries. Gravel crunched under my boots. Somewhere behind me, a dog barked and the sprinkler hissed. I realized they'd underestimated me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was methodical. There's a difference between breaking a rule and proving it doesn't exist. The showdown started with tires chirping and a winch whine you feel in your molars. Saturday, 9:18 a.m., my driveway. Deputy Mark Salazar, my brother's academy buddy, had parked his county F-150 along the curb while helping me move a used workbench into the garage. A bright orange tag flapped under his wiper. Unauthorized commercial vehicle, tow authorized. I hadn't even finished reading before a black hauler eased in, hazard lights winking like smug little eyes. "Hang on," I said, stepping between the tow operator and the bumper. "This is a county vehicle on duty. He's here 10 minutes. Carol Wicks arrived with her tablet and 2 board members like junior lawyers. The pearl brooch flashed in the sun. HOA Rule 612, she intoned. No commercial or law enforcement vehicles overnight or visible during daylight unless for active service. This truck is not actively serving. Mark lifted his badge, calm as a lake. "Ma'am, I'm on a wellness check. Neighbor called about a man crying in his garage. That man's me. My friend lost his brother. You want my incident number?" Carol didn't blink. She pointed to the tow guy. "Proceed." "You sure?" the tow operator mumbled, eyes on Mark's badge. "Rules are rules," she said. D. Like a charm, she refused to break. The winch cable tightened with a metal whisper. Mark exhaled through his nose. I stared at Carol and felt something old and hot rise in my chest, grief braided with anger. "Carol," I said, "you tow a sheriff's truck, you better be perfect." She smiled, small and polished. "We are." "If you're hearing this and you're firmly anti-HOA, tell me how far you'd go before you'd lawyer up. And if you've been bullied by a board, drop one tactic that helped you stand up so somebody else can use it tonight. If you're one of those HOA lurkers in the comments, leave your message for the people you govern. Say it out loud, right here." While Mark radioed dispatch to log the interaction, I filmed from my sidewalk. Public vantage, no expectation of privacy, Texas being a one-party consent state. My phone captured the tow hook, the wheel lift, the way the orange tag snapped against the glass like a fish at the surface. I panned to the right where the easement grass met the curb. See, the truck wasn't in front of my house at all. It was 32 feet down, squarely adjacent to Parcel 47C3. The drainage strip I'd confirmed remained city-owned. "Carol," I said, "you can't enforce rules on municipal frontage you don't control." She pursed her lips. "The aesthetics of this community are our jurisdiction." "That sentence isn't in any statute," I said. "I'll send you the citation you meant to quote." She gave a look that said my tone would cost me money. "We'll handle this in hearing." Mark's supervisor rolled up at 9:31, another unit behind, both calm and carefully neutral. They weren't there to fight an HOA, they were there to keep a neighborhood from becoming a headline. The tow truck idled. Diesel heat shimmered above the hood. Children peeked from a minivan down the street, faces like quarter moons in glass. Maria stood by my mailbox with a tot, a bag and a look that said, "Breathe, Greg." "I'll pay the tow," Mark said finally, jaw tight. "County will sort it later. Document everything." I already had 23 photos, 2 short clips, GPS coordinates embedded, and a written note. 9:37 a.m., winch engaged, orange tag photographed. I slid the notice from my door into a clear sheet protector and clicked it into my binder. The rings snapped shut. That sound, metal sure and final, made Carol glance down as if she'd lost a beat. The thing about an HOA that acts like a jurisdiction is they forget they aren't one. Real authority leaves footprints, ordinances, oaths, budgets that can be subpoenaed. HOA power rides on recorded documents and member consent. When they push beyond that, they step into a kind of shadow that daylight hates. I started the dig that afternoon. The county clerk's site gave me the subdivision plat and amendments, 14 filings between 1997 and 2021. I read them like a detective reads a bar tab. Section 612 didn't exist. The closest was 6.1.2, which limited overnight commercial vehicle parking on lots, not on city frontage, and law enforcement vehicles didn't appear in any revision. I printed every page with the file stamp at the bottom, that little box that smells like toner and old glue when it gets warm on the printer tray. On the city side, I pulled right-of-way maps. The curb where Mark parked measured 41 feet from corner radius to my driveway apron, city maintained, not HOA. I took a steel tape, measured twice, wrote it in pencil, 41 row, 6th Parkway, 4 to sidewalk, 3 verge. I set a phone timer for 10 minutes and walked the block, filming every contractor truck and lawn service trailer the board had never touched. While I worked, the smell of cut grass and warm asphalt mixed with coffee from Maria's thermos. She read over my shoulder. "You're going to beat them," she said, but it wasn't cheerleading. It was a diagnosis. I filed a records request to the HOA manager for all violations and tow authorizations for the past 24 months, citing Texas Property Code, FAR 209.05. I printed it, signed in blue ink, slid it into a USPS certified envelope, tracking number 7021 1290 00 8451 9923, so they couldn't pretend it never arrived. I also emailed the same PDF to the management company with read receipt turned on. Ding. Read by Kendra at Sunview Management, 4:11 p.m. That night, I mapped a timeline. Citations, appeals, Mark's tow, every date and time. The binder got new tabs. Covenants, notices, row, tow, photos. Maria laughed at the neatness. "You're like one of those engineers who labels his socket set." "I am that engineer," I said. By Tuesday, a response arrived from Kendra, the manager, a PDF with redactions so heavy it looked like a bad spy novel. Out of 73 incidents, only 8 were visible. None involved law enforcement vehicles. I annotated each gap with a sticky note and a question mark. At lunch, I met with a lawyer named Hank Rivera, a municipal sold HOA specialist who kept his pens in his shirt pocket and drummed his fingers while he listened. He flipped through my binder, smelling of Old Spice and courthouse air. "You document like a paralegal," he said. "2 tracks we can run, demand compliance and, if they dig in, petition for injunctive relief. But I want you to try something first. No letters, no threats. Let them talk themselves into a corner." "How?" "Ask for the rule. Nicely. Get them to put it in writing. Ask who authorized the tow by name. Ask for the tow contract terms, line by line. People who overreach always hide the paper. And if they invoke executive session for basic records, they're handing you a procedural gift." Hank's eyes narrowed at the tow tag photo. "And this, did you keep the original?" "Sheet protector, tow tab." "Good. The wrong citation section number is half my work done." After he left, I built a simple website, sunviewfacts.com, password protected for now. I uploaded redacted PDFs, my timeline, a chart of fines by month from my records, $0 in January, spiked to $1,225 in April, mostly landscaping, decor, and a mystery category called nuisance vehicles. No way all that happened without board discretion. At the Thursday open forum, I signed up to speak. I kept my voice mild, hands on the podium where the wood was cold and smooth. "I'm requesting the governing documents section used to authorize the towing of a county vehicle on May 13, 2023, at 9:37 a.m. adjacent to Parcel 47C3, which is not HOA property." Carol's brooch caught the fluorescent light. "Mr. Lawson, the board is empowered to protect community aesthetics. Could you cite the section?" "Our council advises that vehicle restrictions are broad." "I didn't ask about breadth," I said. "I asked for a number." Murmurs stirred. A man in a golf shirt, board treasurer I recognized, leaned forward. "We can't litigate from the podium." "I didn't bring a complaint," I said. "I brought a question." The room tightened. Papers rustled. A chair scraped. The air smelled like carpet cleaner and impatience. Carol lifted her gavel a fraction of an inch. "We'll respond in writing." Which was exactly what I wanted. Their answer would either be the right number, proving they knew the limits, or it would be smoke on paper, which is how smoke detectors earn their keep. On my way out, Maria caught my sleeve. "She's going to make it personal," she whispered. "It already is," I said, thinking of the flag holder, my brother's note, and a winch cable humming like a bad decision. I wasn't done digging, not close, and the hole I was digging wasn't for them. It was for the truth to sit in, visible from every angle when the sun came up next. The written response arrived 5 days later. Single. Page, HOA letterhead, Carol's signature neat as embroidery. It cited Rule 612A, Vehicle Visibility, Board Discretion, Problem was, no such subsection existed. The smell of toner was still sharp when I held it to the window light, watching the watermark shift like something ashamed to exist. They'd typed the lie themselves. Maria was the first to see my grin. "You've got them." "Not yet," I said, "but they just built my timeline for me." I forwarded the letter to Hank, my attorney, with the subject line "Board invents rule." He called 10 minutes later, half laughing. "Greg, that clause isn't even in their recorded CCRs. You've got selective enforcement and bad faith documentation." I opened my notebook, logged it. June 3, 2023. Fabricated citation reference. Confirmed. That night I walked the street again, camera tucked low. Captured 6 contractor trucks, 2 realtors' SUVs, 1 plumbing van, all parked longer than 15 minutes. Not one had a ticket. I cataloged each by house number. I could feel the cool metal of the camera in my palm, the low hum of streetlights overhead. When I got home, I made a spreadsheet cross-linking each photo to time and address. Engineers make sense of chaos with columns. Every row was a heartbeat of hypocrisy. At midnight, I clicked into the county assessor's portal. The HOA owned exactly 1 parcel, the clubhouse lot, 0.47 acres. The drainage strip, parcel 47C3, still municipal. I saved the PDF of the ownership record, printed it at 100% scale, so the small font City of Denton, recorded 1998, was crisp. Knowledge nugget number 2. A homeowners association may not regulate, restrict, or assign penalties on land it does not own or control by recorded covenant. Enforcement there is legally void. Maria texted at 1:02 a.m. "They'll double down. Don't blink." She was right. The next morning, a fresh violation showed up. Grassin, crouching 2 inches over curb. I measured 1.6 inches, camera leveled, time-stamped 9:14 a.m. Their pettiness had precision. Over the next 3 weeks came the harassment montage. 2 wellness checks by code enforcement who said they'd received anonymous complaints about excess clutter. 3 violation letters, all referencing imaginary subsections. A Facebook post from Carol hinting about certain residents undermining community harmony. A car that idled too long near my driveway at midnight. License plate belonged to the property manager's nephew. I didn't react. I documented. Each incident logged. Date, time, duration, and copy of the call record where allowed. The fear beat came on a Thursday night when I found my mailbox unlatched and an envelope slid open. Inside, the fine statement for $950 labeled "Continuing Non-Compliance." My hands shook. Not from fear, but the thin edge of it brushing my family's legacy. I called Hank. "At what point is this harassment?" "At this point," he said flatly. "File a police report. Keep it factual." The officer who came smelled of rain and starch. He read the letter, nodded once, and said, "We'll log it. Pattern like this tends to implode on itself." His pen made a soft rasp over the form. That sound steadied me. After he left, I sat on the porch, rain starting to tap the railing, thinking of my brother's flag. It drooped wet, but proud. I whispered, "I'm not letting them take this house." By late June, Hank had something new. "Remember the drainage parcel? There's a maintenance lien attached to it for stormwater compliance. Expires every 5 years unless renewed. The HOA is supposed to reimburse the city for mowing, but the last payment recorded was 2016. So they've been billing homeowners for city maintenance? Exactly. If that lien lapses and the city sells the rights, whoever buys them inherits the reimbursement stream." The air around me felt electric. "You're saying I could buy their leverage?" "Quietly, yes. Through an LLC. It's public record, but they never check. You'd actively control the land they pretend to govern." That became the plan. I formed 47C Holdings LLC using an online filing portal. Cost $308. I listed a P.O. box and Hank as the registered agent. The purchase offer went to the city clerk, who barely blinked. Routine transfer of maintenance rights. Closing set for July 10th. I told no one except Maria. She poured coffee and whispered, "That's genius. Don't gloat till the ink's dry." For the next 10 days, I kept my head down while the board staged its next performance. Letters, threats of lien, whispers at the mailbox. Let them talk. The LLC paperwork cleared on July 8th. 2 days later, the rights recorded at 10:42 a.m. I printed the page and slipped it into a new binder tab labeled Leverage. Visual beat number 1. The deed, still warm from the printer, sliding into the binder under the fluorescent hum of my garage. Reversal number 1 was locked. They just didn't know they worked for me now. Every inch of that grassy easement, every unsightly vegetation citation they'd ever written, all mine, by law. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt patient, like someone who knows a door has already come off its hinges. It just hasn't fallen yet. So I waited for their next move, and they delivered. A certified letter. Failure to comply. Hearing July 20th. Perfect timing. Public, recorded, with a podium and an open mic. I smiled, sealed my evidence box, and circled the date in red ink. That was going to be the day sunlight met paper. Before I slept, I scrolled through comments on my last upload and typed, "How far should an HOA control what you do on your own property? Your porch, your lawn, your flag? Where's the line? Tell me below." Then I closed the laptop, felt the weight of the binder beside me, and listened to the quiet hum of the fridge. The storm had stopped. The air smelled of wet asphalt and the slow burn of justice warming up. The hearing day came hotter than forecast, July 20th, 2023. 98 degrees by noon, heat index pushing 104. The kind of air that smells like baking asphalt and bureaucracy. I arrived early, binder tucked under my arm, shirt pressed, no tie. Carol and her board clustered near the folding table inside the clubhouse, an oscillating fan clicking back and forth like it was deciding who to favor. They'd arranged the chairs into neat little rows, about 20 residents scattered through them. Some came for gossip, others for quiet hope. Maria sat in the back, arms crossed, a faint grin. Hank, my attorney, leaned near the exit, pretending to scroll his phone, but recording everything per Texas's one-party consent law. Carol opened the session with that same clipped tone. "Mr. Lawson, you are charged with ongoing non-compliance and hostile conduct detrimental to community harmony." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I placed a printed map on the table. "Before we start, could you read into the record the authority this board has over Parcel 47C3? Her eyes narrowed. "This is not a question and answer session." "Actually, it is," I said, turning to the residents. Under Section 209.007 of the Texas Property Code, the accused homeowner has the right to present evidence and question the association's authority during any hearing involving fines or sanctions. That sentence dropped into the room like a coin into a well. Hank nodded subtly. Carol recovered fast. "Our authority extends to all visible frontage within the community." "Not unless you own it," I said. I flipped open the binder and slid out a document with the city's watermark. Deed transfer, July 10th, 2023. 47C Holdings, LLC, me, now holds maintenance rights and control over the land you've been citing me for, which means every fine, every violation, every photograph you've taken on that strip is legally void. Gasps rippled through the room. Carol blinked twice, jaw tightening. "You purchased the land?" "Not the land," I corrected softly. "The maintenance rights. But under municipal code, that includes exclusive authority over usage enforcement. You've been governing someone else's jurisdiction." Her vice president, a tall man with a sunburnt forehead, interjected, "That can't be valid. You can't just buy—" Hank stepped forward. "Actually, he can. The city confirmed the assignment. I've got the recording number if you'd like it for your minutes." Carol's knuckles whitened around her gavel. "This hearing is adjourned." I didn't sit. "No, it's not. You accused me publicly. The law says I can respond publicly." She froze. I reached into the binder again, pulled out a photo. Marks County truck being towed, cable taut. This image was taken May 13th, 9:37 a.m. That truck was parked on 47C3, city-owned. You authorized a tow from property you didn't control. That's unlawful interference with public function. A murmur turned into whispers. Someone's phone clicked a picture of the photo in my hand. Carol's face flushed crimson. "We acted in good faith." I nodded. "Then good faith will show up on your insurance report. I've filed notice with your carrier citing potential exposure for unauthorized towing and defamation. You'll be hearing from them before the end of the month." Maria let out a quiet, delighted laugh from the back. The board adjourned without eye contact. Carol's pearls trembled slightly as she packed her folders. Hank gathered my papers, whispering, "You just changed their insurance rates forever." Outside, the heat hit like a wall. The asphalt shimmered. I leaned on the railing, exhaling slow. The world looked the same, but it wasn't. For the first time, I wasn't the one defending myself. They were. That night, I uploaded the public version of the footage, faces blurred, facts intact, titled it, "HOA tries to tow sheriff, forgets they don't own the street." Within 24 hours, 48,000 views. By Monday, 127,000 paths. Comment sections lit up with stories. Contractors, veterans, teachers, people fined for bird feeders, planters, kids' bikes. America's quiet anger found my inbox. "Can they really tow someone without proof of ownership?" one viewer asked. Knowledge nugget number 3. HOAs act only through the recorded CCRs. Without jurisdiction or board resolution filed in public record, enforcement on public or third-party land is a breach of duty and may void director's indemnity coverage. 3 days later, Sunview Meadows HOA posted an emergency meeting notice, August 3rd, member concerns. I knew what that meant. Crisis control. Maria brought me lemon tea on her porch. "You're winning," she said. "I'm not done," I replied. "Winning isn't the point. Fixing it is." She smirked. "Spoken like an engineer." "Or a tired brother," I said quietly. "He'd want me to build something better than a grudge." I spent the next week drafting reform proposals, term limits, transparent budgeting, member vote audits, open records commitments. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about keeping the next guy from facing the same nonsense. By the morning of August 3rd, my binder had doubled. Tabs color-coded, jurisdiction, fines, insurance, deed, reform. Maria spotted the extra thickness. "What's the plan this time?" "Let them make the first move, then trade peace for reform." She raised an eyebrow. "You sure you'll get that chance?" "They'll try to save themselves," I said. "That's when people are most reasonable." I arrived early again, wearing the same shirt, as if continuity itself were an argument. Inside, Carol looked different. Composed but smaller somehow, like the air around her had cooled. The treasurer whispered furiously to the secretary. Kendra from the management company avoided my eyes entirely. When Carol opened her mouth, her voice trembled only once. "Mr. Lawson, the board acknowledges an error regarding Parcel 47C3. We are working with the city to clarify boundaries." I kept my tone level. "Thank you. That's a good start." She hesitated. "However, we believe your recent online posts have damaged community morale. We'd like them taken down." I smiled slightly. "In exchange for what?" A pause. "What do you mean?" "I'm willing to remove them if the board adopts 3 reforms tonight: term limits, open financial audits, and an independent ethics committee with resident oversight. Transparency isn't punishment, it's prevention." Murmurs filled the room again. A man near the back said, "He's right." Carol glanced at her counsel, who nodded once, resigned. "We'll consider a motion." "Then I'll consider editing the video description," I said. The vote didn't happen that night, but it was clear momentum had shifted. The board adjourned early, faces pale with calculation. On my walk home, Maria joined me halfway. Cicadas whined overhead. "What if they stall?" she asked. "Then we push again," I said. Quietly, legally, relentlessly. She smiled. "You'd make a good firefighter." "Too late," I said, looking up at the flag. "But maybe I can still keep something from burning." Back home, I placed a fresh sheet of paper in the binder. Reform proposal, pending. The ring clicked shut like punctuation on a promise. Then, because every fight deserves a question, I wrote in my notebook, "Fines versus fairness. 250 years, $500, $1,000. Justice or revenue scheme? What's your limit?" The next 2 weeks turned the subdivision into a pressure cooker. The August sun pressed the air flat, and tempers went brittle. HOA gossip moved faster than the heat shimmer. Lawns mowed at 6 a.m., sprinklers whirring like whispers. I started getting half-friendly nods from neighbors who used to avert their eyes. Even the mail carrier slowed his truck to ask, "You the guy we saw it? The sheriff tow thing?" I nodded once. Good work, man. But Carol wasn't done. On August 9th, a new violation arrived. Offensive signage. They meant the small laminated notice I'd taped to my mailbox. All communications must be in writing. Per property code, SAR 209005. Legal accuracy offended them more than any slogan could. The letter smelled faintly of perfume and toner, which somehow made it worse. That night, Maria came over carrying her usual thermos. "They're baiting you," she warned. "I know," I said. "Let them. Every paper they send me is another exhibit." By the 12th, my inbox overflowed with residents forwarding their own fines. One woman, Denise, sent scans of 6 citations for visible children's toys. Another neighbor, retired Air Force, got a $400 penalty for an unauthorized bench that turned out to be a memorial plaque for his wife. The pattern was clear: selective enforcement to fund rising legal bills. Knowledge nugget number 4. When an HOA relies on escalating fines to cover legal expenses, directors may breach fiduciary duty. Insurance carriers can revoke directors' and officers' coverage for self-inflicted litigation risk. I told Hank, and he whistled low. That's your domino chain. Their insurer will fold first. Still, the harassment thickened. A landscaping crew showed up claiming board work order. They trimmed my azaleas down to stumps. I recorded the whole thing: dates, faces, invoice tag hanging from a clip. On the HOA's own Facebook page, an anonymous account posted, "Some residents don't appreciate standards. Maybe law enforcement should check their mental health." My address blurred in the screenshot, but everyone recognized the number. That was the night I felt fear again. Raw, personal, the kind that knots your gut. I checked the locks twice. Maria texted, "You okay?" "I will be," I typed back. "They're writing their own ending." I doubled my documentation. 2 external drives mirrored nightly. Hank connected me with a compliance auditor named Carla Reed, mid-50s, thick glasses, laugh like a cough. She specialized in HOA accounting. "If they're moving dues money to pay fines," she said, "I'll smell it in a week." Carla did more than smell it. She found it. Line 48 of the June statement. Legal contingency, $11,200, withdrawn from amenity reserve. Illegal reallocation without member vote. "They're using your fines to fund your prosecution," she said, almost admiring the audacity. I drafted an email to the board requesting a full audit under PRALR 2090051. Carol replied 2 hours later, "Denied. Confidential legal matter." Perfect. Denial of statutory access was the crack in the dam. Meanwhile, I stayed polite. No shouting, no online rants, just quiet compliance. My trash cans hid behind the fence, my lawn edged to regulation height. Outwardly, I was a model resident. Inwardly, I was counting days. Hank's voice on the phone kept me steady. "Let them underestimate you. The first person to raise their voice loses credibility." He was right. So when they served me with a lien intent notice on August 18th for unpaid fines totaling $3,475, I smiled. That number was my receipt of victory, proof they were ready to cross the legal line. I filed a complaint with the Texas Real Estate Commission and attached 32 pages of evidence: fabricated rules, jurisdictional overreach, insurance misuse, and selective enforcement logs. I sent copies to their management company and insurer. 4 days later, the insurer's adjuster called Hank. "We've suspended coverage pending review." That's how dominoes start. Quiet, procedural, irreversible. The board panicked. Emergency emails flew, subject lines screaming urgent, coverage notice. Maria forwarded me one someone accidentally CC'd her on. The panic almost smelled like ozone through the screen. But fear still lingered at home. At 2 a.m. one night, headlights swept across my living room wall and stopped. A slow roll, then gone. I stood in the dark, phone recording against the glass, just breathing. The hum of the fridge felt louder than the crickets outside. By dawn, I'd made a decision. Time to force daylight. I called Hank. "We move now. Hearing, press, whatever it takes." He said, "Public meeting scheduled next Thursday. City oversight will be there because of the jurisdiction complaint. That's your stage." Visual beat number 2, the binder box snapping shut. numbered tabs gleaming under morning sun as I carried it to the truck bed next to the folded flag that started it all. Before leaving for work that day, I scrolled through my community feed and typed one question that cut right to the bone. Privacy versus surveillance, board patrols, cameras, citations, safety or harassment. Where's the legal boundary? Tell me in the comments, or at least like the video, so this question reaches someone who needs it. Then I set my phone face down, grabbed the binder, and drove toward a showdown that had already begun to write itself. The night before the hearing, I barely slept. I kept rehearsing my lines in the dark, listening to the faint whir of the ceiling fan. The binder sat open on the coffee table, pages fanned out like a tactical playbook. Every sound outside, an engine idle, a dog bark, felt like prelude. Maria texted at 11:58 p.m. Remember, calm is the loudest voice in a room full of liars. Morning came hot and colorless. The community center's parking lot shimmered, heat mirage rising off the concrete. The city inspector's white sedan sat at the curb, a neutral authority, clipboard on dash. A local reporter lingered by the door, pen behind ear. I'd never invited press, they'd come anyway. Inside, the air smelled of old carpet, coffee, and anxiety. Carol's pearls looked tighter around her neck than usual. The treasurer whispered furiously into his phone. The audience was larger this time, maybe 40 people, folding chairs, scraping tile. At 10:03 a.m., the gavel cracked. This special session will address claims regarding jurisdiction and towing authorization, Carol said, voice clipped. I rose, binder in hand. Before we start, I said, for the record, could we confirm the presence of the city inspector? The man in khaki lifted a hand. James Bennett, City Code Compliance, observing on behalf of the Denton Planning Office. Perfect. A neutral set of eyes. Carol shifted papers. Mr. Lawson, you have made numerous accusations. Not accusations, I said, voice steady. Evidence. I handed a copy of the maintenance deed to the inspector. He examined it, nodded once. Recorded July 10th, public record, valid transfer. Carol blinked, composure slipping. Even if so, it's irrelevant to— Actually, Bennett interrupted, tone polite but steel-edged. If that parcel remains under municipal control, or its rights are assigned elsewhere, HOA enforcement there constitutes unauthorized action. The city will review towing authority accordingly. A murmur ran through the audience. Hank, seated 2 rows back, scribbled something in his legal pad, but didn't look up. Carol tried a different tack. This resident has been antagonistic, posting defamatory statements. Everything I posted, I said, was backed by your own letters. I held one up, the orange tag photo enlarged behind me on a small easel. Visual beat number 2 came alive in real time. The glossy image of the sheriff's truck mid-lift, orange tag fluttering, Carol's reflection faint in the chrome bumper. The crowd leaned in, murmuring. Carol's vice president stood, voice quivering. We were enforcing for safety. That vehicle— Mark's voice came from the back, calm as before. That vehicle was mine on duty. Sheriff's Unit 214. The reporter's pen scratched faster. Carol's gavel hit the table again, sharper this time. Order. But order had already shifted. Bennett cleared his throat. Given the evidence, I'm noting probable overreach. The city recommends temporary suspension of HOA enforcement on parcels with disputed ownership pending review. That was the legal kill shot. Carol sat down slowly, eyes unfocused. The treasurer leaned over to whisper, but she didn't move. I closed the binder gently, the click echoing. All I ever wanted was fairness. Not favoritism, not power, just fairness. The room went silent except for the hum of the fluorescent lights. Then, one by one, neighbors began to clap, not loud but steady. Afterward, outside in the parking lot, Bennett handed me his card. We'll issue a written finding within 2 weeks, he said. What you did, well prepared, factual. You'd be surprised how rare that is. I'm just tired of seeing people bullied, I said. He smiled. Most good reforms start that way. By evening, the local news segment aired. Homeowner proves HOA overstepped. City intervenes. The thumbnail showed me at the podium, rain from a passing shower beating on the microphone like jewels. Domino collapse had begun. Emails leaked from the board. Hank forwarded them to me, where Carol begged their insurer for reinstatement. Denied. 2 directors resigned within 48 hours. The management company announced temporary administrative withdrawal. The next week brought a cascade of calls, residents asking how to audit fees, how to request meeting minutes, how to file for recall elections. Sunview Meadows, once silent, now hummed with civic curiosity. That's when I posted the next question to my viewers. Developer ties and council favors. What penalty fits conflicts of interest? Should HOA boards face public ethics reviews like city officials? Drop your thoughts below. The comments exploded overnight. Lawyers, veterans, even one retired judge chiming in. Still, I wasn't celebrating yet. The board could reform, new faces, same habits. True change needed structure, not scandal. Hank knew it too. Your leverage is worth something now, he said. Trade it for reform. That's how you make this permanent. I looked across the street at Maria watering her flowers under the dusklight. The community looked peaceful for the first time in months. Kids rode bikes, someone grilled burgers, laughter carried across lawns. The very normalcy felt revolutionary. Time to finish this right, I said. The reform meeting was held exactly 2 weeks later, on a Thursday evening that smelled like rain on concrete and fried food from someone's backyard. I walked in late on purpose. Let them feel the weight of waiting for once. The chairs were packed. Even residents who'd never attended before squeezed into the back, phones ready. The new interim chair, a tall man named Roger Klein, stood beside the podium with a trembling stack of papers. Mr. Lawson, he said, thank you for agreeing to attend. We understand you have proposals. I nodded, binder under my arm. 3, I said simply. Term limits, transparency, accountability. Carol sat 2 rows back now, no longer at the table. Her pearls were gone, replaced by a thin chain that looked like apology. I opened to the section labeled Reform Draft. First, board members serve a maximum of 2 consecutive terms, no lifetime presidencies. Second, all financial records and enforcement actions posted online quarterly. Third, establish an independent ethics committee with at least 2 non-board residents and 1 external auditor. The murmurs swelled, rippling like wind through dry grass. Roger adjusted his glasses. That's substantial. Not as substantial as lawsuits, I said, voice calm. You lost your insurer, your management firm withdrew, and the city froze your enforcement authority. Reform isn't optional, it's survival. He looked at the paper, then at me. What do you want in return? Peace, I said. I'll archive the footage, lock the site, and issue a retraction that the board is cooperating in good faith. That's the deal. Maria, sitting in the back, as always, whispered to the woman next to her. He's trading a bullet for a blueprint. The board recessed for 15 minutes. I waited outside, leaning on the railing, rain starting to patter lightly on the metal roof. The smell of wet cedar filled the air. My reflection in the clubhouse window looked tired but unbroken. I thought of my brother again, of his flag still hanging by the garage, of his voice telling me to protect what matters. When the board returned, Roger spoke first. The motion passes, unanimously. Term limits, audits, and the ethics committee effective immediately. Applause erupted, cautious at first, then louder. It wasn't celebration. It was relief. I shook Roger's hand, firm and professional. Thank you for doing what's right. He nodded. Thank you for forcing us to. As the meeting broke, a few residents approached, offering quiet thanks. Denise, the woman with the toy finds, hugged me with tears in her eyes. My kids can finally play outside again, she said. I looked around the room. Faces I'd once avoided now softened by shared victory. The sound of chairs folding echoed like a heartbeat returning to rhythm. Outside, Maria waited with 2 paper cups of coffee. She handed me one. So what now? Now, I said, we rebuild. She smiled. You ever notice that justice always sounds like paperwork rustling? I laughed, the first real one in months. And ink drying. The next morning, the local paper ran a headline. Sunview Meadows HOA agrees to sweeping reforms after resident challenge. Underneath was a photo, me shaking Roger's hand, rain-beaded microphone in foreground, the flag faintly visible through the window behind us. For once, the story didn't feel like a fig. It felt like closure. That night, I recorded the episode for my channel. My voice was calm, measured, a little worn. Sometimes, the law isn't a sword, it's a level. You set it down, adjust, and let gravity tell the truth. Then I posed the week's question. Punishment fit. When HOA officials trespass, harass, or misuse power, what's the right precedent? Fines, removal, or something stronger? Write your answer below. The comments filled faster than ever, but I didn't refresh the screen. I just closed the laptop, stepped onto the porch, and let the night breeze hit my face. The neighborhood was quiet again. Porch lights glowed like small promises. Maria waved from across the street. "You did it." "Not yet," I said softly. "There's one more thing." In my truck, under the seat, lay the binder, dog-eared, heavy with ink and justice. Tomorrow, I'd file the reform charter with the county clerk, make it official, permanent. But tonight, I wanted to remember the sound of calm after chaos, the hiss of sprinklers, the hum of streetlights, the faint metallic creak of a flagpole shifting in the wind. I filed the reform charter the next morning, August 24th, 2023. The clerk's office was quiet, just the hum of fluorescent bulbs and the faint smell of toner and dust. The woman behind the counter slid my notarized packet into a metal tray marked Recordings, same day. When she stamped the top sheet, the sound echoed sharp and satisfying, like punctuation at the end of a sentence that took a year to write. Back outside, the Texas sun felt different, not softer, but earned. I drove home slow, window down, binder on the passenger seat. Maria's house came into view first, the hydrangeas she'd overwatered glowing like pastel lanterns. She waved, and I lifted the binder slightly in salute. She laughed. "You keeping that thing or building a museum?" "Maybe both," I said. The community had changed already. The new ethics committee posted its first notice on the bulletin board by the pool. All meetings open to residents. Minutes published within 72 hours. Simple words, but they looked revolutionary in that cheap plastic frame. 2 weeks later, Carol resigned formally, citing health reasons. The treasurer followed. The management company returned, cautious but compliant. And for the first time, the HOA newsletter opened with something other than a warning. It started with a thank you. The city inspector's report came through on September 5th. HOA enforcement on Parcel 47C3 unauthorized. Towing incident in violation of Municipal Code 7-2-14. Recommendation. Board censure and compliance review. It wasn't vindictive. It was factual, lawful, exactly what I'd fought for. The aftershocks rippled beyond our gates. Local media ran a follow-up titled "The Engineer Who Rewired His HOA." Neighboring associations called Hank for consults. Carla, the auditor, started a small side business teaching residents how to read their own budgets. She sent me a postcard with 3 words: "You started something." On September 10th, we held a community picnic, the first in 5 years. Kids chased each other around the gazebo, burgers smoked on borrowed grills, and the flag my brother left me waved steady above it all. Maria stood next to me with her thermos as usual. "You know," she said, "it's almost boring here again." "That's how you know we won," I said. Before sunset, I walked to the podium near the pool, tapped the mic once, and said what needed saying. We learned something here. Power without transparency rots, but accountability, real, lawful accountability, can heal a neighborhood faster than any landscaping project ever could. People clapped, not loud, just enough. And now, if you believe I fought the right way, and this is how it should end, see. A few words in the comments for your friend. Subscribe so future stories reach you first. As responsible citizens, share this so others learn and get inspired. That part's on us. After the crowd thinned, I stayed behind a moment. The flag rustled, the air cooling with dusk. I thought of my brother again. His note, his faith in simple decency. I whispered, "We kept it up, just like you said." Visual beat number 3. The old violation notice, the first one they ever sent me, curling at the edges in a small fire pit. The ink blistered, paper turned amber, and for a second the flames looked like dawn breaking through. When the smoke cleared, I took a deep breath of clean air and watched kids' laughter rise over the fence, blending with the faint drone of crickets. Later I mailed my last envelope, a donation to the County Fire Scholarship Fund in my brother's name. Inside, I tucked a note that read, "For those who keep their ground, even when it shakes." The binder sat closed now, labeled Case 47C, resolved. Maybe I'd keep it as a reminder, or maybe someday another neighbor would need it. Either way, it was ready. As I locked the garage, porch light flicking on behind me, I smiled at the quiet. No engines idling, no knocks on the door, just peace. Next case, maybe somewhere else in Texas, another HOA that forgot who they work for. Until then, I'll keep the binder close, the flag higher, and the lesson permanent. Justice isn't loud, it's thorough.